Were you in the class with me when I got in trouble in high school? When that guy, I think he was from NASA, came to talk to us, and they said they had sent a satellite into a black hole, and it sent back a bunch of pictures that were just black. They couldn't see anything, and I kind of mumbled, maybe you forgot to turn the flash on. And then we all started laughing.
Right.
And it was like, if it's funny enough for you guys to laugh, go ahead and say it to everybody. And I was like, maybe you forgot to turn the flash on. It's not funny now because I have to say it in front of everybody.
I don't remember that.
But then he had this look on his face like, that was my job.
Welcome back, everybody. We're back on Shed Talk, where you hang out with us in our shed, even though we're not in a shed. Today, today we're with Eric. This is Steven's conspiracy theory friend. If you ever heard us talk about him in the past, we've been waiting on him a long time, and today's going to be a great time. We might actually end up with 2 parts. We might not.
So today's entire podcast is going to be conspiracy theory instead of just the beginning.
Exactly. Real quick, I've got two things to bring up. One, we were talking about the Mandela effect in our last one, and then I ended up watching some more videos, not intentionally, about the Mandela effect, and people are saying that the truth behind the Mandela effect is it's the government trying to see how much they can change history.
Then
And
get
so,
away with it.
yeah. So y'all remember we brought up the Fruit of the Loom. Some people don't remember it having some people remember it having a cornucopia on it, but now Fruit of the Loom showed all these pictures saying that there was no cornucopia at all, period. And this girl actually went, like they thought she was going crazy because she could have swore there was a cornucopia.
The TikTok girl.
Yeah.
No, yeah, my girlfriend showed me the videos and stuff because she always like gets really close to the camera and
Yeah.
is really wide-eyed.
Yeah.
And like went through the whole thing and was just like, I proved this.
Yeah,
And
she found a T-shirt that had the cornucopia
no,
on it.
right, like proof. And then there was another thing. There were other Mandela effects that she was dismantling. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head which ones.
I actually pulled up the movie this time because the last one I jumped from multiple Mandela effects. But,
Yeah, we thought he was doing LSD.
They showed a video. I don't remember the comedian's name. I have the one that Shaq was in. But the movie with the genie that had the comedian and they
Sinbad.
Yeah, they said his movie didn't exist.
Right.
That
Shazam.
it was actually Shaq and it's Kazam.
Right. Well, Shazam was the
But-
one with Sinbad.
And they showed video on TikTok and he's like, "Oh, I was never in this movie." That's what I was referencing to in the last one.
Well, no,
I
and
gotcha.
I had actually seen a video that a friend of mine had sent to me that was it was a clip from the Kazam movie, and the reason why it was taken off is there was one specific scene that was shown, and that was what the whole little short clip was about. And they were in an attic, right? And like, and he pops out, and it's Shaq, and he's just like, "Ha ha, I'm a genie."
Yeah.
And like in the attic around them are VHS cassette tapes, and on the cassette tapes were things like 9/11, the murder of Gaddafi, like it's just stuff like that,
Yeah.
you know. And it was just crazy how that's the reason why they had to take it down was because of the fact that it was too as far as evidence of whatever it was that.
And they also showed something in that TikTok video because it also showed where Curious George had a tail and it circled it. There was a book that with Curious George having a tail
Yeah.
Right.
in that TikTok video.
Maybe he was a Saiyan and they removed his tail for a reason.
But you don't want a
You don't want him to.
40-foot tall monkey whenever the full moon comes out.
Yeah, that's what happened. He was a Saiyan.
The other thing is, I had this idea that I didn't tell y'all about. I was telling Steven, in the future, you remember iCarly, how at the end of the episodes they would have videos of the watchers or the viewers or whatever.
Yeah.
And they would do like those funny little videos. I was thinking we should do that.
I think we will.
Yeah. So if y'all have any videos of you saying hey or doing something funny, not provocative because I can't post that.
And not super dangerous.
Yeah.
And not anything to do with feet because Nickelodeon and the guy liked feet.
Dan Schneider.
Dan Schneider.
Yeah. So
We're not
anyway,
here to please Dan Schneider. We don't want feet pics.
send in
okay?
your videos to probably either Facebook, which is just Slater, the S18R. Instagram is real Slater with some underscores between, and then email is slaterfilms@gmail.com. Send in your videos.
You could probably put it somewhere. In
Yeah, I'll
the-
put it on here. That's a good
Yeah.
idea.
It's a good idea.
It's a good idea. Anyway, so now, Eric, we're gonna. If you have
All
any
right, Ed.
conspiracy theories to start off with,
So we were going to talk about which one would we talk about?
So, whenever we talked on the phone about me coming on, initially, you said you wanted to talk about secret societies because that's a really big subject nowadays.
Yeah.
So I figured I could, sort of touch on that, and I wanted to start with what I consider to be, at least in North America, one of the most potent crucibles of secret societies, and that's Yale. Everybody knows about the Skull and Bones Society and the Dead Poets Society, all these clubs that are at Yale. But what most people don't realize is, as of right now, there are at least 47 confirmed secret societies within Yale by itself. So the problem that's happening, at least I don't really see it as a problem, it's just important people in very secret clubs, talking very secretly. It's what everybody's talking about.
So like they have their own secret language?
They have their own secret handshakes, and really and truly, a lot of people believe that a lot of these secret societies came out of like the old mystery cults, like the oracles of Delphi, the Orphic mysteries, the old Greek stuff, and that bleeds over to the Egyptian stuff, which is a lot of the Masonic stuff is Egyptian imagery. And it all comes from, the Masons of the Temple of Solomon. So, as far as secret societies go, it's really, really crazy how many of them there are. And, for the most part, especially externally, like looking at them from the outside, they're entirely benign.
Yeah.
The Shriners. From the outside, it looks like a very generous and proactive thing that these people are doing.
yeah, they love
But
kids.
No, right? They love kids.
Yeah.
But the big thing
I like their
is,
Cracker Jacks.
like, a lot of what they do stands on ritual.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like when we say that, I want to explain to people because I don't think a lot of people understand what that means. They hear ritual and they think, chanting and, robes and all of that kind of stuff. And that is part of it, right? But, I think what most people don't realize is that everyone has ritual in their life, right? So, there are potent things that we do as far as, what most would be considered, spiritual ritualism.
Yeah.
That we have no idea, the significance of it. Like consuming beef, goes all the way back to Babylon. And there are rites of sacrifice that involve cows. And it's just it's something that we've been doing as humans for thousands of years. And there are actual mystery cults around the cow, and in the Hindu religion, a cow is a sacred animal, and they don't eat meat. So it's, I guess me, as a self-proclaimed conspiracy theorist, what I really wanted to do and what I found the most interesting doing all of this stuff is, I guess, finding parallels between stories, especially myth. I've been listening to the Bhagavad Gita in Sanskrit and looking the translations on the screen, and it's just super interesting. But as far as the secret societies go, I don't want to go too far off topic, but there are more of them than people could ever imagine, and every single one of them that your average person knows the name of mean absolutely nothing because they know of them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
Like,
there
it's-
was a documentary on Netflix. This guy got his way into one through a college that he went to. I don't know if it was Yale. It might have been Yale. But it's the same one that a lot of the presidents in the past have went through.
Right.
And it involved the Catholic priest and the president and some high-ranking officials in the
Right.
government.
The Order of the Rosy Cross.
Yeah.
Right.
And he went in undercover and he wrote a whole Netflix documentary series about it. And I don't remember the name of it, but he talked about all the stuff that they had to do, the rituals that they had to do, the stuff. What is it called when you have to get into something like
Initiation.
an initiation? And a lot of the people that were part of that group became a member somewhere high in society.
Right.
So
Like,
maybe
it's the same group. They said that what's the one that JFK met his wife in that one, and they also paired them with women in that one.
Well, I know that there's the Order of the Rosicrucians, and then I know that there's the Order of the Eastern Star, and then there's the Masonic Order, there's the Order Templar, and then there's the Knights of Malta. Like and that's what I'm saying. That's the crazy part is I don't know exactly which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
But like I know what you're
Yeah.
saying. You know.
So maybe Joe Biden's not actually crazy and not speaking gibberish. He's speaking in code.
Well, no, he's an old man with dementia.
Yeah,
I mean,
He's an old man with
and like
dementia.
so like even going into the
I
conspiracy
was trying to
stuff,
give him benefit of the doubt. All right.
I mean, even going into the conspiracy stuff, right? Like, if it is a man wearing a Joe Biden mask, it's still a very old man
Yeah.
wearing that mask.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I really get disappointed about.
Skinwalker.
Right.
Aliens.
But it's one of the things that I get really disappointed about as far as politics in America because, like,
Politics to begin with.
no, exactly. It's like it's become a nepotistic thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like look at the Clinton family. Look at the Clinton Foundation, right? We're talking about a husband, a wife, a daughter, and like
A
God only
mistress or
knows how
two.
many, right? How other people. And then
They look lifeless. Like the photos you see of them nowadays,
well no,
they
right.
look like their life was sucked out of them. They
Well,
look
it's-
like they're dead walking around.
It's because of the fact that doing the things that they do, it takes a toll on you, man. Like even the rituals, right?
Yeah.
Like these Orphic rituals.
Have you seen like Barack Obama went gray over 8 years?
Right.
Like he went in looking super young, and he went out
What's
looking
that?
like he was.
During COVID, they had this this African American lady. She looked really youthful before, and then after, like she's part of the health department or the head of it, and now she looks like
Yeah.
she's this older lady with
Bro,
gray hair. And,
That's why we're bald
Oh, man.
at this age. We have
Like-
so much stress.
yeah,
And like I think the former mayor of Chicago is a really good example of that. Mayor Lightfoot, Lori
Uh-huh.
Lightfoot. When you see her before she came in, like she was a vibrant woman,
Yeah.
right? And then like just a few years later, like some of the memes that they made about her, she legitimately and genuinely looks like Michael Keaton from Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Like
Jesus.
it's wild.
that's actually probably who I'm thinking about.
No, right,
Because I don't keep up with the mayors of the big cities because I don't want to go to the big cities to begin with.
right,
But I think from the news, that's who I'm thinking about.
right.
I had this 7th grade teacher that was super into, like the way he explained it was you're out in the middle of the woods in the middle of nowhere and you knock on a tree.
Nice.
I gotta like edit all this stuff out.
I'm that brother from the people we don't talk about that says random things during the podcast.
Yeah. Anyway, and you knock on a tree and it's metal and it's because there's a missile silo there. Like that's
Right.
how he described. He's
Right.
yeah.
No,
He's
so-
into the deep stuff.
Well, no. So, like, if you want to get upon deep stuff, like we can go literal and metaphorical, right? So, like, have you ever heard of Cheyenne Mountain?
No.
Yes.
Okay. So, the United States government hollowed out an entire mountain,
Uh-huh.
and they built a whole city underneath it, and that is basically an emergency DC, right?
That's pretty cool.
Right. It's
I mean, I
called
believe
Raven
it.
Rock.
With all these shows.
Like,
that,
and you can look it up. It's called Raven Rock.
Mm.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
no,
say
no,
that.
no, no. I was just saying I agree. I believe it with all these shows
Right.
that they're secretly putting into these shows.
Oh no, man! I'm like, if
with-
you want to talk
I was
about
telling
that,
you earl- on a previous podcast, what is it? The yellow people? What are they called? No, not the Flintstones.
The
That's
Simpsons.
cave people.
Yeah, the
Simpsons.
there's
Simpsons. Anyway, the Simpsons. They had a secret city that was built under a major city,
Right.
and then like our games that we play, like Fallout, the show Fallout, and Secret, the Fallout Shelter games.
Futurama.
Yeah, Futurama, like all that stuff. I believe what you're saying based off what they're trying to make normalized in society.
Right. And so going back to Raven Rock, Cheyenne Mountain, right? So they built this in the event of nuclear holocaust,
Yeah.
right? So basically, all of the politicians have been given sat phones. They were given them about 18 months ago, I think, maybe even longer. I have a brain injury, so like time is weird for me. But a while back, they all got sat phones, and I remember seeing the article about it. And basically, if something goes completely south, every single one of them have a golden ticket to, I can't remember where it is. I think it's Wyoming, Cheyenne Mountain, Raven Rock. And they'll go there, and every single major city in North America would be wiped off the face of the planet. And they could literally carpet bomb the whole mountain completely flat and wouldn't actually cause major damage to the structures under it.
So
And
you know how they hollowed out an entire mountain without people knowing? They distracted everyone with Area 51.
I believe it.
well, I mean, it's
Well,
been obfuscation.
That is their secret base. Everybody's going to try to figure out how to get in. It was a distraction.
right.
There might have been some stuff there, but
I mean,
it was a
if you
distraction.
want to
Well,
talk
no.
about distractions, there's a lot of things over the years that is a distraction that could have been for that or a policy that they were passing.
Well, that's what the Illuminati is. They're in charge of the media.
Well, no, that's exactly it. The Illuminati is meant to be the scapegoat.
Yeah.
Like the Order of the Bavarian Illuminati was initially a very, very, very secret thing, right? You were never meant to talk about it. It wasn't meant to be spoken about. Like, very few people knew about it, and by the time it became mainstream, right? Like, it was really the boho movement, the Bohemian movement out in California, Bohemian Grove, all of that stuff. Where Mark Twain, everybody who was anybody was in this club, and that was when it started to become mainstream. Because people who were very powerful, people who were very important, were being noticed, either disappearing or entering into the premises, and it just slowly became a thing that people knew about.
Yeah.
And then because of the fact that we know what they are, like, if you look at everything in the symbolism in our media these days, right? It's all very blatant with very, very little symbolism.
Yeah.
But it's always the pyramid, the eye. Everybody talks about the hand gestures, the finger signs, all
Yeah.
of these things, right? Well, really and truly, those are all distractions, in my opinion.
I think it was funny that it was on an Iggy Azalea music video. Forgot which one it was. It was like she has a private jet in the background, and they're all dancing in front of it, and it literally has spray painted on the side, digital distraction.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just like what was it? Recently, I think it was Arby's had and the Illuminati eye on top of a pyramid, and it said like coming soon or something.
I think
like
it was
that.
Taco Bell. Taco Bell does a lot of Illuminati
Right,
stuff.
like weird stuff,
Yeah.
right? And it's just that's the thing is that is blatant symbolism,
Yeah.
right? So it's not like it's secretive. It's not occulted because the symbolism that they're putting into things is occulted symbolism.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is, like I said, it's coming from these rituals, these and I know we got to watch the language, but like this can get pretty dark. It's very ritualistic, and it's been done largely the same way for a very, very long time. And from what I've gathered, it really is like the whole world is both factional and fractional, right? So like you have these multiple factions up against each other. So it's like these secret orders are doing secret things. And you talk about like people talk about the stuff with the Vatican. People talk about the stuff with Armenia. People talk about the stuff in Turkey. Like Turkey's been popping off with archaeological stuff over the last few years.
Yeah.
So like all of this stuff is coming out, and it's becoming more and more apparent that the symbolisms that we have in our day-to-day lives, the things that we've taken advantage or taken for granted, I guess you could say, not taken advantage of, have roots thousands of years old. Like, and especially a lot of the Greco-Roman mythology, because like the Greek pantheon was Romanized. So like, was it Zeus became Jupiter? and like everyone had a different name,
Yeah.
but they were the same gods. So you have two different cultures.
They became planets. They
Right.
got
Well,
planets
they
where-
worshipped the celestial bodies, right?
Yeah.
It was all astrology.
Yeah.
But at the same time, and this is another thing I'm really glad that we get to touch on, is because, like, I feel like a lot of people don't know how the ancients used to worship and think of the gods, right? Because, like, nowadays, you see a lot of prostration and things like that whenever people talk about prayer. And it's just like the whole, like, bow down Muslim style, pray towards Mecca type of thing. But in the ancient world, it was largely vocal and poetic. So, like, you would do these rituals. Like, there's a cleansing ritual where you would take fresh water and you would take salt water and you would take an incense or an herbaceous thing and you would dip them in the water and you would use this water to cleanse yourself. And basically, they said that it was to pull miasma off of you, which is basically like bad stuff that collects on you just by going through life, right? And you had to cleanse yourself before you went to the gods. And, like, a lot of it was very personal. But at the same time, there were orders devoted to every single one of these gods, where, like, for the big one is Dionysus. Like, most worship in the ancient world was Dionysian in nature, right? And it's that ecstatic ecstasy, that eros, that erotic love, right? That manic state that you get in. What do they call it? That transcendental manic state. You know what I mean? You guys are paramedics. You see it all the time. People on, like, crazy amounts of drugs, just like absolutely out of their gourd, right?
This is my favorite.
Right, like, that's the thing. It's like,
Those and psych patients.
right, but they are, for all intents and purposes, in a completely transcendental space, right? Like, I'm talking dilation of time, dilation of space. Like, their whole consciousness is undergoing something that, like, can't be seen, but is very, very real and being experienced.
Speaking on that, I watched, I guess it was a documentary or something, saying those certain mushrooms that people were eating
Agaric.
were unlocking parts of the brain that would help you think differently, I guess.
I need that mushroom.
Psilocybin.
You do need that mushroom.
Maybe I'll pass my test.
Well, no, so
I don't think it's a good idea, though.
from what I've read and seen, like, they've studied the brain on psychedelics, like LSD, like extensive LSD studies with the CIA that we'll never see, I'm sure. But, like, on the civilian side, with the mushrooms, in Colorado they legalized it, and they've been doing a lot of PTSD studies with it. And, like, it literally remaps the way that your neurons fire in your brain, right? So, like, basically, you build up these neural pathways in your brain, and it's basically the shortest route from A to B. Like, have you ever seen those videos of, like, slime molds solving puzzles?
Yeah.
It's pretty much the same thing, right? Whenever you do these massive amounts of psychedelics, it sheds something. Like, I'm not going to get too deep into it because I don't know. I've only done, like, surface level research. But, like, it literally sort of, like, causes just this massive stimulation in the brain, right? Like, you look it up and it's just lit up like a Christmas tree, like overclocked like a computer, right? And then afterwards, whenever you're recovering, like, your brain has opened all of these completely new different neural pathways, and those are your experiences. And that's why a lot of these psychedelic adventures, I feel, are, like, both physical and metaphorical, right? Like, whenever people are going through these experiences, like, of whatever you're going through, like, at the same time, on an organic, like, internal level, like, something is happening inside your brain where things are, like, repairing themselves, putting themselves back together in ways that they weren't together before.
Yeah.
And, like, that's just crazy cool to me.
I've heard of certain societies using those kind of drugs to help people think the correct way, I guess you'd put it. which was kind of strange to think about.
Right.
I don't know if you've heard of that.
No, I have, but I really don't want to get too deep into that one because I'd like to be invited back for a second episode on that. I'm not gonna lie, but because that's something that I could talk about for another entire hour and a half because
Yeah.
it gets into something that's very recently started to hit the more mainstream stuff.
So what do you think about then, since we're going to get on the Sykes side of this, a lot of people who were paranoid about, I can't pronounce it, aliens, extraterrestrial life.
Extraterrestrials.
I don't believe
For
in
years,
extraterrestrials.
people were like,
I don't either.
They're real.
people were like, they would aluminum foil hat kind of make fun of them,
Right.
and then they would put them in psych facilities and put them away. And now, like last year, the government's like, oh yeah, aliens are real.
Right.
So are they
So,
going to let all these people?
Are they
out?
real,
I
or
saw
is that another
something-
distraction?
I saw
right.
something on that saying that it has to do with like end time prophecy, but they believe that the government is using aliens to explain spirits to people,
Right.
so that instead of us believing in
Latent psychic phenomenon.
yeah,
Right. So like that's I think here so here's I genuinely believe that humankind has latent psychic abilities that have been suppressed chemically and psychologically through both drugs and trauma over the last God only knows how long really.
On the back of it, I agree.
And what's happening is that as we're entering into a new astrological age, right? Because that's what it is. We are entering into the age of Aquarius. Like as the sun rises in the east now, it is rising behind Aquarius. Like we're no longer in the age of Pisces. So like when you look at like the Hindu stories of the yugas, the ages, right? Like we are within the Kali Yuga, which is like the evil yuga, and it's one of the longest cycles. But as we progress forward, the next stage is a golden age again, and it's just like the samsara is it's the wheel, right? So it's just like it's constantly turning and it never stops. And I'm of the mindset that humanity has always been here and will always be here, right? Like we were made for here. This place is made for us. Like we are of this place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like I don't really like hold too much into the Taoist belief of like we're all a thought in the mind of God and that type of thing. But like I have in my personal life seen like deep spiritual connection with the world, right? Like at large, like, and I'm sure you guys have experienced something similar at one point. Like you'll just be sitting there, right? And like you fall in love with an inanimate object. And I don't mean like love, but just like you have a favorite fork. You know what I mean?
My favorite spoon.
Right. Or some things like that. And it's just like,
I dropped it
Favorite
on the
chair.
floor.
right. It's sort of that same kind of vibe.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
I have a not favorite chair. This one.
Yeah.
I hate these chairs.
Hey, I can go get that other one over there, but
no,
it's
they,
broken.
they make too much noise.
It's broken.
But yeah, I agree. I believe that this world was made for humans,
Right.
And with the circle that you were talking about, I think in my brain I correlate that with this meme that I saw where I'm sure I'm going to butcher how it's put, but basically, hard times create strong men, and strong men create weak men, and weak men
No,
create
strong
hard
men create
times.
good times.
Oh, yeah,
Good
good
times
times
create
create
weak
weak
men.
men.
Weak men create hard times.
Yeah.
Hard times make strong men.
And that's just
It's the cycle of
and
samsara.
I think we're in the good weak men kind.
No, right, well
phase.
that is exactly where we are right now. So
100%.
I was, like I said at the beginning, I've recently started listening to the Bhagavad Gita, and there's a passage in the Bhagavad Gita that I'd heard in a lecture recently, and I could go into the whole Stanley Kubrick Eyes Wide Shut thing too with the same chant. It's to protect the righteous to destroy the wicked, I come from age to age. And it's the god Shiva, like singing this chant, literally about to decimate an entire battlefield. And that's what he says, to protect the righteous and to destroy the wicked, he comes from age to age. And I don't think that, like, it's as a physical avatar, right? Like, yeah, in mythology, a lot of these gods have the ability to manifest, like, physically, bodily. But, like, I think a lot of the time, these gods manifest themselves as an energy in the world, right? So, like, there are checks and balances in the psyche of all of humankind, right? Like, injustices create upset people topple monarchies.
Yeah.
And it's just like there's this sort of ironic cycle to all of it, right? And that's why I feel like a lot of people would do really good, or it would do a lot of people really well, I should say, to research a lot of the old mythologies, like the old books, like the Hindu mythologies and the Hindu texts, like their Bible, right? Like to even read the Quran. Like I tried learning Hebrew to start reading the Hebrew Bible, and then I found ancient Greek, right? And was reading the Septuagint in ancient Greek, or trying to, because you're translating word by word, right? Like I'm literally an elementary,
Like kindergarten.
right. And but like the level of detail in the Septuagint in Greek is absolutely crazy when you compare it to the Torah, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like the Hebrew Torah, they use very generalized terms for so many things, where in the Greek, in the Septuagint, there are very specific phrases or very specific terms, very specific names for like political figures in small towns outlying big cities, right? Like that had a very specific name in the Septuagint, but that name didn't exist in the Hebrew. So like for me, there was that sort of revelation and breakdown where it was just like, if the Greek is more detailed than the Hebrew, then it doesn't make sense at all that the Hebrew is older than the Greek.
And
Do you feel me?
yeah, so I'm probably not going to explain this in the best way, but I do know that a lot of the words in the modern day Christian Bible, obviously over certain translations, hasn't lost anything, because you can go compare it to the original
Right.
scribes, and it is, still. So I wouldn't agree with the people that saying it's not accurate because of all the translations. Like, you can go back and translate the original Bible that
No,
they
right.
do have.
Like we have the Septuagint.
But they have different words in the original Bible for, like, there's several words for love. I'm not really.
No, right.
What is.
Like, I think there were like 12 or 14 different words for
Yeah.
love in the Greek language.
Yeah.
And every single one of them had different connotations. Like eros specifically is erotic love. Like it's carnal love, sexual love, right?
Yeah.
And then I feel really dumb right now for not knowing them. But like there are others, and there's one
Yeah,
that's a
I got
platonic love.
One that I'm thinking of that's like above all. Agape?
Yes, agape is
Yeah.
that brotherly, that friendly love,
Uh-huh.
right? And like that was what most people would use as love,
Yeah.
right? And it's just like, and that's one of the things like you try, and it's I guess it's frustrating for me because like I don't really find people that are interested in talking about these kinds of things.
Yeah.
You know.
So we go back to the
Cheyenne.
Cheyenne Mountain.
Right. Okay. So I wanted to talk about that as a segue, right? Because what I really want to talk about are deep underground military bases. Because what Raven Rock does at Cheyenne Mountain is it proves to us that it's not crazy to think that it's happening, right? And it's not crazy to say that it has happened,
Yeah.
right? So,
I mean, it can't be crazy because they tell you Area 51 as a distraction.
No,
But
right.
still, to believe in Area 51 means there's a military base built on the ground somewhere. So
Well-
still, it's not crazy to think that the military's done it.
Area 51 is basically the lid, right?
Uh-huh.
It's the other places under what is that lake? I can't remember.
It's a lot of lakes.
Right, but it's the one right there. But basically,
Lake Tahoe?
like I remember you guys talked about Bob Lazar on one of the other episodes I watched. I'm pretty sure.
Maybe. Oh, is that the Frog Brigade guy?
No.
No, Bob Lazar was the UFO guy, like the one who went on Rogan and talked about all of the technology and stuff.
I'm not sure if we did, but I did. Like, I was at a station at work one time and sat down, and it was like a whole bunch of UFO stuff. They had several pilots claiming
Right.
that they've seen something go like 60 times faster than a jet.
Oh, no.
The fastest jet.
I
can go.
I have personally witnessed radar video.
Yeah.
Like not watched the radar literally, but seen radar video of some of my buddies in the military that have taken on ships, that have taken in towers
Yeah.
for air traffic controllers
So
and things
you said
like
that you also agree, because like I don't think that there's extraterrestrial, but
Right.
you said you also agree. So what do you think that could be then?
Okay. So again, this is just me being a crazy person.
Yeah.
Right? So if you look at every single one of the ancient mythologies, right, there's a breakdown of the old order and the new order, right? And we'll just talk about Greek because it's one of the things that I'm most familiar with right now. First, there were the Titans, right? And then the gods came, right? And then the Titans were just like, we can't have this. And Kronos ate Zeus and Hades and Poseidon, the whole thing. And so the Titans died, right? Sent down to Tartarus, not really died, but like imprisoned forever,
Yeah.
right? I think that those were an incredibly advanced race of humans, right? Not aliens, but like humans that had gotten to a point of genetic manipulation, technological advancement, that they could create the creatures of mythology, right? So if you think about a Minotaur, right, and you think about the hybrid programs, like look at Dolly the sheep, the cloning programs that the U.S. military and the United States government has admitted to, right? We have the ability to cross things like animals with humans, right? And for those to develop. What I genuinely believe these aliens are, it's a few options. One of them is that there's something that was here all along, alongside us, and we used to know about it. And for whatever reason, the powers that be have obfuscated that to the point of myth, sort of like the One Ring in the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or there was a war between factions, because just like today, I told you earlier, it's factional. Everything today is factional. Everybody's fighting against each other. There is no one evil force,
Yeah.
right? It's a whole bunch of people just trying to do evil, really. I mean, evil stuff, sorry.
No, you're good.
But on the alien thing, what I genuinely believe that they are, or what I think that they are, is hybrids. They're a cover, right? So how is it that they could convince us that a race of evil aliens has come to take over the planet, right? Like, if they have the technology and they've been reverse engineering these things since the 30s, the 50s, right?
Yeah.
Like, they have these crafts. If they have these crafts and they have the ability to create human-animal hybrid clones, right? You put a couple human-animal hybrid clones in one of these things and you send it out as a drone, firing lasers or EM waves or whatever. It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
Destroying cities, and you shoot them down, and then people go and retrieve the crafts, and there are these cat-human hybrids or like dog-human hybrids, or it doesn't even really matter. They could make them lizards. They could do whatever they want, right?
Lizard people.
It's all about developing a narrative.
Yeah, the Argonians.
No, right. Exactly. The lizard people.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just like the Hindu had the Naga, right? Like there are mythologies of snake people,
Yeah.
right? And you look at the Gorgons in Greek. Like Medusa was, a snake thing with snakes for hair.
Look
right?
at dragons. They are in every ancient.
Well, no,
everything.
right, of course. And like, of course it's metaphor. It's always metaphor. But at the same time, it could be both figurative and literal, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, in my opinion, it's very obvious that there is still a faction of incredibly technologically advanced human-like people. Like the tall whites, the Nordics, like whatever you want to call them, right? They look like us, except they're just bigger, more beautiful, like whatever account. You hear all kinds of stories from people. But like they're human, right? So they're not different than us.
Well, I was going to ask, I don't know at what point, but I think this is probably a good time to, since we're talking about factions and old and then order and new order. In one of our previous ones, we talked about pyramids and the skinnier ones. I don't know what they're called.
Obelisks.
So I saw a post on Facebook today. It said leave it to like the old light posts were more beautiful than the current one. The current ones is what you see out in your yard.
Right.
But these power lines and these satellites that for like our 5G and our Bluetooth and just all of it.
Right.
Do you think that and I don't want to go too far off what you were talking about, but I figured this was a good time.
Right.
That the pyramids, they were talking about how it can generate energy. Do you think those were probably the old technology of like our satellites and power poles now?
So, I'm really glad you talked about this. There's a YouTube channel called The Land of Chem. I don't know if it's KHEM or CHEM, but I think it's CHEM.
I'm gonna try and link that on here. I've never done that before, but you know how it has like the little eye
Yeah.
and the thing that slides across.
Right.
And you click on it. I'm gonna do that right here.
Right.
Anyway.
And
Maybe.
basically, he is an incredibly intelligent man who knows a lot about material sciences. And he's gone around the Giza Plateau, and he has said that he postulates that Egypt was, or the pyramids were chemical factories, right? And they were piezoelectric generators that were also generating nitrates for fuels and fertilizers. They were generating acids for mining operations, and a lot of people think that that's why a lot of the stuff in Egypt looks like it's been scooped away, is because we don't know the technique, but he thinks that they were using some sort of acid to soften the stone to the point where you could just scoop it out, right?
Yeah.
And you were talking about power generation. Every single one of the bricks in the three pyramids on the Giza Plateau and the Sphinx are made. Well, I think the Sphinx is made of sandstone, but it's a quartz sandstone, right? And quartz has a very, very interesting property in that whenever you apply pressure to it, it creates an electrical charge, right? Think about the grill strikers. You push the button and you click, 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 and then it does the little electricity static pop, and then it starts the fire. It's the same thing, except instead of a tiny little quartz crystal that you're applying pressure to when you click it, it's literally millions of stones, dozens of tons, hundreds of tons a piece. So there is an enormous electrical potential there, right?
Yeah.
So all you have to do is apply pressure. And he thinks that basically the way that the shafts of the pyramid are set up, they're set up at angles like this. And he says that there was a stone piston ram, and basically a chemical reaction occurred behind it that would force this huge stone up, and it would build immense pressures behind it. And once this stone reached a certain point in the shaft, there was a bleed-off area. So it would hit that, and then that pressure would bleed off and escape to somewhere else down into the pyramid to be used to move machinery or to move other works of engineering.
Yeah.
And like the whole time, you look at a lot of the older pyramids and stuff, you can see where they've burnt oil in the lamps, and the roofs are completely pitch black. And some of them are completely clean, no soot. And they believe that there was some way of creating an electrolytic cell on a very large scale. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. It's like, so a galvanic battery, the way an electrolytic galvanic cell works in a battery, like your average car battery, right, is there are plates and there's an acid solution. And by putting energy into the system, you give it a charge of an electric potential, right? And that's a very small thing. You fit that in your car, right? So it's very difficult for people to imagine something like that on a scale of a pyramid, right? Like imagine a pyramid that has an acid bath underneath it with a leaded electrolytic cell. And you're generating the electricity with the piezoelectric properties of the pyramid itself, and you're able to store that. And at the same time, there are people who say that all of these ancient pyramids, like all over the Eurasia, Asia, Africa, South America, and even North America, they're finding pyramids now.
Didn't you say they found some underwater somewhere too?
Yeah.
They're finding them all over the place. So
So maybe you guys don't believe in aliens, but I think those pyramids might have been gas stations for aliens.
Gas station.
well, no. So
They stop
so,
it on Earth, recharge their ship.
No. So strike aliens, right?
Atlantis.
And just put in Atlanteans.
Yeah, the area. So I don't know if you heard about this in that other podcast where we were with him. There was a lady. I don't know if you know anything about this too. You might. She is known for something. I still don't remember what it was, but she wrote these books talking about how the Aryans came from the Atlanteans, and that's what Hitler and all the Nazis would read.
Oh, Madame Blavatsky.
I told you it was a thing. I'm not crazy.
No,
I'm
right.
not crazy. Just
right.
a conspiracy.
I'm not crazy, just him.
Well, no, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it's one of the things that's fascinated me with all of this, because really and truly, like, you see a lot of memes, right?
Yeah.
And you'll see, tell me about what was going on in blah 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 time, Grandpa, and the old guy's just like, it all started with this gorilla.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Talking about Harambe, because I'm being serious. Back in 2016.
Oh, I remember Harambe.
Like-
I was all for
No, right? It was one of those things where it
went
felt
around wearing
like
a gorilla mask.
Right.
something
and
biblical.
I would say,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Harambe.
Like, it felt like when you talk about the 7 seals of the Bible, right? It felt like that was one of the 7 seals, like an innocent life lost for nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the whole world saw it.
Yeah.
I don't
And it
think
was
you
just one of
know.
those catalysts that sort of began this whole awakening process for me. And I say awakening, I'm not just like I'm woke or anything.
Yeah.
But it's just like I have done so much digging into the way the world works, right? And when
Yeah.
you really start digging into who's rubbing elbows with who, it becomes incredibly obvious that George
Yeah.
Carlin was so right. It is one big club, and we ain't in it.
Exactly.
It was
You're
it's
not-
these brothers that I'm refusing to name the name of.
I don't think you know
because,
how old they are.
Um,
This one might not have been alive when Harambe died.
bro,
I was in high school.
that was 8 years ago. I was in high school. You think I'm less than 8 years old?
Childish.
I graduated in 2017, my guy. I think it was my senior year it happened.
Right?
Yeah, you're old.
Right?
Anyway, but
He's the older one.
what was I just talking?
I just turned 26 a few weeks ago.
Oh, these brothers that I refuse to name the name of because one of them says some things that can be a little
Misconstrued.
sexist at times.
Oh, that too.
Yeah. Jinx.
I
Anyway,
hate him.
but regardless, they were talking about this one. They basically explained money.
Right.
Blew my mind.
No,
And
right.
People hate it whenever I talk about it because it just angers people. But I talked about it with somebody on the ambulance the other day, and he was glad that I talked about it. So I'm going to bring it up. So they got rid of the gold standard a while ago. I didn't
think
know
it's
that.
by oil now.
No,
No, it's not.
there's no standard.
There's no standard.
Yeah.
I thought it went to oil
No.
standard.
Nothing backs up money
Right.
at this point.
It's
so
fiat.
they can just print it.
It's fiat. It's imaginary.
What money is worth is workers' time.
No, what money's worth is decided by how much they print.
Yeah.
Right? So basically, we have X amount of value as a
Yeah.
country. We have X amount of gold, silver. We have X amount of collateral, right? So,
And we have way more debt than that.
no, right. So, like, basically, you have to keep the ratio of the money you've printed to the value you have to back that money at a certain level, right? But with a fiat standard, there is no pile of gold or silver. There's just a supply of cash.
Yeah.
So, like, and that's a lot of people have no idea what fiat even is, right? And it's just like, even I don't fully understand it, but I understand that it is imaginary.
So for loans, what the banks do, they only have to have 10% in the
Collateral.
bank. Yeah.
Like in holding.
Yeah, they only have to have 10% of what they give you, and then they charge you that plus interest. So they're making money,
Right.
even though they didn't have the money.
Right.
And then whoever can just
It's
print it
called
whenever.
fractional reserve banking.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's literally the reason why we're in the situation that we're in right now.
yeah.
The reason we're not dead is because of our military.
No, the reason we're
The
not
rest
dead
of the world
is because
can't
of the
call
fact,
our debt because we can beat them.
But I mean well, I'll just
Breathe through your
blank it out.
nose. Breathe through your nose.
Yeah.
right.
I'm just gonna blank that out. But so y'all know what I'm talking about. They're all in on it, you know.
No, we call that the PTB.
Yeah,
Right. You
They're-
can refer to them as the PTB.
The
Because
PTB.
the powers that be.
yeah. The powers that be.
Right.
They actually were at, I forgot what group it was. Wow, I'm just so much at once, and I also had a lot of caffeine
No,
today.
welcome to my life. Man.
Yeah, but somebody had. I watched a video where they actually showed the people that are claiming to be the PTB, and they have an organization. I forgot what it's called, but basically all the higher ups are like the rich people.
The Council
or
of
the-
300.
Yeah.
The Bilateral Commission.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
all get together
Yeah.
and have these meetings.
Right.
So it exists.
The Council of Foreign Relations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anyway, so you're working for all this literal paper that they just print up
Right.
whenever they want to.
Right. Right. And it's all Nixon and Kennedy's fault.
Yeah.
Or no. It wasn't Kennedy. It was FDR.
Yeah.
It was Roosevelt that took us off the gold standard, and it was Nixon that took us off the silver standard.
And they're trying to keep, in addition to that, they're trying to keep everybody in the middle class. So they tax the rich and they give money to the poor.
Right.
And they just want us all to stay to the point where we're having to work.
Well, no. So they're trying to create they're trying to create an era of technological feudalism, right?
Yeah.
So basically, so there's a doctor. His name is Jason Giorgiani, Jorjani. Absolutely brilliant guy. He's a philosopher. I found him recently, and I've really, really enjoyed looking at his stuff. He's incredibly eloquent in the way that he speaks. He knows what he's talking about. He has receipts. That's one of the things that I love. But I forgot where I was going with this again.
Well, I believe the reason we have to work so much is because if we don't work, we have time to think, and they don't want us thinking for ourselves.
No, right, techno-feudalism. So, Dr. Giorgiani, right, he says that we are at no more than 20 years away from a technological singularity, right? Now, the powers that be have only one option in order to maintain the status quo.
Yeah.
They have to stifle the technological advancement. They have to deindustrialize the world. And they have to create a new religion in order to sort of manifest destiny their way into replacing the gods that we've killed. You know what I mean? Like we live in a secular society now. We can't avoid that. It's one of the things and a lot of people, especially in the Abrahamic faiths, Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, right? Like, they're all waiting for a Messiah, right? And you look at, the Vedic texts, when the Messiah comes, he comes flaming sword in hand and destroys the bad guys. It starts off a golden age. It's what's happened every single time, right?
Yeah.
So they know they have one shot at doing this. And that's another reason why I wanted to get into the deep underground military bases, is because a lot of these celebrities and politicians, they're building doomsday bunkers.
Vault Tech.
Right, exactly. So it's just they're prepping for one of two things, in my opinion. Either they know that something's coming, whatever it is, some sort of astrological event, a meteor, the sun sending out solar flares to wipe all life on Earth, like potent type stuff. We don't know, but they do, supposedly, right? So like either they
They're
know,
afraid of something.
right? I think that that might not be the case. I think that they are prepping for
Doomsday.
no, for apocalypse.
Yeah.
And because when you look at the word apocalypse in the original Greek sense, it wasn't like an earth-shattering, global, devastating event, right?
Yeah.
Apocalypse means an awakening, an unveiling, like a removing of a cover.
I'm hoping for zombies.
I don't know. I genuinely hope, right, that
Yeah.
because it's gonna get bad. Like if the past has taught us anything, it's that whenever times like this come, right, you can't stop the bad people from doing bad things. You just
No.
can't, right? You can only either be proactive or reactive to what happens. And most people are going to be reactive, right? So, like, really and truly, I genuinely believe that no matter what's coming, the only thing that you should be doing now is being proactive, developing skills, you know, like putting back metals, like buying like ounce at a time of silver bars, because they're only like $30 for an ounce of silver, right? So you can put that away, you know, a couple every paycheck.
That's
And
what
then,
my mother and Stick are doing.
no, right. But that's how they used to do it. You
Yeah.
know, our grandparents put all of their money in mattresses. We didn't have banks. They didn't trust the banks.
I
You know
pull
why?
all my money out and put it in a safe.
No, right. Like
Of course, in this time that we're talking, paper probably won't matter, but
right. Well, and but
Keep you
and that's,
warm at night.
that's why they're trying to push for the CBDCs, right? The central bank digital currencies. It's because they want a
they want to
universal basic
They want to
income.
funnel all of our. They want to basically control what we spend, how we spend it,
Right.
monitor it, and if we do something they don't like, then they can take away our money until
They can take away your ability, your access to your bank account. They can, with everybody go like, why do you think I'm driving around that big old Cummins out there?
Yeah.
It's because when the time comes and everyone's Tesla is driving them to concentration camps, like, what are they going to do? All of these people buying these smart cars with all of this self-driving
or
stuff.
smart school buses.
No, right.
Oh,
But that's-
Buckeye.
Take
That's
the
it. No,
children
that's
to
exactly it.
concentration camp.
Like when you look at all of these things, like
Yeah.
if you're aware of what it looks like their end goal is, then it completely changes your outlook on what you're seeing in the present.
Well, I mean, America has already had concentration camps during World War II.
No, right?
So
we had
actually,
Japanese
I got
Japanese
this-
Let's
citizens
go to Camp
I got this
Rafuki.
book
in
at
Beauregard.
Walgreens,
Camp Livingston.
Right,
Livingston. I
right.
got this book about the history of Alexandria, and it talked about it. So, obviously, it was a training camp, and it had like, what, hundreds of thousands of soldiers go through there before they went over to Europe or
Vietnam,
It-
World
well,
War II. Yeah,
Yeah, World War II. During World War II.
right.
Over to
It was a Vietnam training base too.
really.
Yeah,
Well, like during World War II is what the book was talking about. After they would ship the soldiers out, I'm assuming to go to the UK for the D-Day invasion, and probably after that, they were filling in the base with POWs.
right.
Like it originally was Germans, but then they came back with Japanese and Italians. So it was a concentration camp. It wasn't originally a concentration
Right.
camp, but it ended up being a concentration.
They were on American soil,
Yeah.
and like they
In
were
our backyard.
right. They were all over Texas
That's
too.
crazy.
And I didn't
So, like-
know that's what Camp Livingston was when we would drive through it until I saw the history of it, and I saw a map of it, and I saw the housing, the swimming pool.
My science teacher in 7th grade told me that they were putting Italians back there, and I just believed him.
No,
but
and
I never
and-
had confirmation until I read that book the other
Speaking
night.
of Camp Livingston, we're going to do a Halloween special,
Hmm.
and we're going to be doing our podcast at Camp Livingston.
in Camp Livingston.
Are we gonna go to the tree?
Oh, you know about the tree?
Yeah.
Dude, this
Oh.
is so weird. So there's like a bunch of structures that are still out there, and I'm going to say that I'm Christian, so I'm not like condoning Satanism, but there was Satanists during like the 80s and 90s that went out there because a lot of the stuff got knocked
Sacrificed.
down and abandoned.
Right.
One of them sacrificed a cow because one of our friends
Well,
Found a carcass back there.
found a carcass.
No, right.
It was very
Stuck in
active.
his
SRA is
driving
a
over
very, very, very big thing here in the South that a lot of people don't talk about, and that's
Yeah.
One
satanic
of your secret
ritual abuse.
societies that you're talking about. There's a group around here. never mind. There's stuff going on around here
No.
that we don't know about because
That's the craziest part, right? Is from the top down, it's everywhere, and most people have no idea about it, right? Like these secret societies are in every single town,
Yeah.
and I'm not talking about the Masonic stuff, right?
yeah,
because
I'm
because even it's because my father's a Mason, right? So I have a lot of experience with like Masonic adjacent stuff. I was never involved, you know. I never read any literature. He was very secretive about all of it, you know, even when I questioned. But like through my own research, right? Like 95% of Masons today are what most people would refer to as porch Masons.
Yeah.
And what that means is it's your average good old boy who goes in because it's a club his grandpa was in, his friends are in, he has a familial relation with the lodge, you know, and it's this hereditary thing.
It's like the Nepo babies.
No, right, exactly. And it does sort of develop this sort of local family, right?
Yeah.
And inside the Masonic orders, there are,
Levels.
well, not only levels. So in your traditional Masonic rites, there are only 3 levels, right? Your first, second, and third degree Mason, right? But then laterally, you have the Scottish rites and the York rites. And those are completely different sects of Masonry, right? But they're still Masons.
Yeah.
So if you're
Wobbling.
if you're talking about like the cults within cults, right? Like the York and Scottish rites are exactly that. And then within them, they have certain chivalric orders, and that's what a lot of them are. So when you look at the chivalric orders of Great Britain, right, like all of the knighthoods that the royalty would give, right,
Yeah.
those are secret clubs, right? Like once you're knighted, like that's a secret club, right? And it's just like every single one of them are Masonic derivatives, right? And then the Ordo Templari, the Knights of the Templar, the Knights Templar, it's all self-contained, right? Like it's all Masonic,
Yeah.
but at the same time, none of it is Masonic. It's just happening within Masonic circles.
Yeah.
You see what you understand? So it's just like there will always be bad actors, always, because it's in human nature to take advantage of situations and people that you feel you can take advantage of.
Yeah.
Right? And that's why, like, morality is a big thing, and I think that's why we had myth, and that's why we had all of these stories, is because they sort of gave us guiding lights.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like benchmarks to hold ourselves against. And like when you talk about like Samson in the Bible, right? Like that's a hero. You know what I mean? Like dude capable of leveling whole buildings. You know, like holding up entire stone temples on his
Trail?
own.
Yeah.
You talking about Trail?
That dude would squat railroad ties.
Man, I remember when that kid.
He would
was
only
literally this
squat
tall.
2 railroad ties because he had trouble balancing the third.
Yeah.
But we talked about a certain airport earlier.
Oh yeah, the Denver airport.
Real quick, we'll make a part 2. This is coming to the end. Remember, we'll
In
probably
part
forget.
2, we'll get
one
to
of,
the
One
airport.
of y'all remember the Denver airport. We're going to circle back to that.
Right.
Usually at the end of our podcast, we play games. I was thinking the Who Am I, where, you know, it's basically like charades, but you're talking.
Right.
But I feel like that would be too hard. You said the zombie apocalypse is the apocalypse you want.
It is.
Okay, what would the apocalypse style of choice be for all of us? That's what our game will be.
Okay, I'll go last.
Okay. Well, Cole, you go
What would
first.
you want?
Like
You
what do
can
mean?
say like video games or movies if you want to reference.
Like, if the world were to end, in what way?
What post-apocalyptic style?
Like, would you like it to be like Fallout or?
Max, like
I'm gonna go with this game that one of our friends have been playing lately. I think I'm gonna go with and it escaped my brain. Avoy.
Is
One
it
that-
the survival one? What's
No,
it called?
it's like the Assassin's Creed games, but it's The one, the one that Anna's been playing. Horizon.
Horizon. Yeah.
I would want Horizon because the site's beautiful.
Oh, Zero Dawn.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
the
she's
one,
playing the newer
the one where you're
but-
like in a desert and you're like robots and all kinds of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
robot
I think I've
dinosaurs.
seen
Robot
that before.
dinosaurs, and there's this
Yeah,
ancient
yeah.
technology, and you're from a tribe who doesn't want to go into the temples because of the ancient technology. It kind of feels like
Kind
today
of
we're
how
in
our
now
world
already,
started. We were just talking about this.
I know,
Yeah.
Right.
but
yeah.
she gets this. I've been playing the first one. She gets this piece where it shows her, and she learns from it.
It's like Avatar.
Yeah.
The blue ones, not
So-
the
Right,
last
right.
I would
Airbender.
probably want mine to be like that because we can still experience technology that's questionable, but at the same time, we still have beautiful nature-like landscape, and it's not just all desert and hot. And
Well, now that you said that, I'll go ahead and say mine. And I'm not just saying this because we were in it, and I'm really trying to get everybody to watch it. Have you
Oh,
seen?
yeah.
Have you seen Into the Badlands? Okay, so it is.
They're
post-apoc-
in the show Into the Bad.
Yeah, we were extras. We were young, so you probably wouldn't recognize me. I do have like
He had
3
hair.
seconds in my face. Yeah, I did have.
I think he had hair.
He,
They don't have hair now.
I was balding.
Yeah. But anyway, so it's basically feudalism. Still, it's supposed to be like over hundreds of years after.
I've seen bits and pieces of it. I think you'd like it.
So basically, let's say today, we had wars, and the wars were so bad we decided to ban guns. And then several hundred years later, people have forgotten what guns are because we haven't touched guns in so long. We're back in the feudalism days. You have barons, and they each have their own faction. They have their own clippers, which are basically like their soldiers. And there's still fuel, so they have cars and vehicles. It is kind of what's it called? Anyway, they intentionally made the sets to where they were beautiful and green and luscious because they didn't want it to be like all the other post-apocalyptic where you would have everything kind of look dead
That
and
yellow
pale.
filter. Yeah.
Yeah. So, still very beautiful. It actually takes place in kind of Louisiana. It was filmed in Louisiana.
First
and
season
Ireland.
was, yeah.
Right.
But the place itself, it
Yeah.
takes place in post-apocalyptic Louisiana and some of the other surrounding states. Anyway, you should watch it.
Right.
I'm gonna force you to watch it. It's really good.
Well, I definitely want zombies.
They create these. Yeah.
So
sorry.
like,
zombies.
what zombies?
Not World War Z zombies.
Okay.
Like The
Because
Last of Us.
we're all
or-
dead if World War Z happens.
Right. Except for the people who have doomsday bunkers.
No, they're gonna die too.
Unless you're that guy with the
zombies
blood,
are gonna get
the,
in.
The cancer. What do you have? Cancer. At the end of it, he
I
had
think he had like liver failure or something.
Well, he had something that evidently he could transmit to other people. Anyway, what kind of zombies do you want?
I want more of like the Last of Us zombies,
Right, like Day of the Dead.
The fungi or
Yeah.
whatever?
Yeah.
or it's like
Like the classic.
28 days later or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah.
They
If
have-
I had to pick
I don't want
zombies-
28 Days Later zombies. 28 Days Later zombies are like World War Z zombies.
I think-
Not as bad.
Not as bad, no, but like I still don't want a zombie capable of sprinting,
I
Steven.
think The Last of Us had.
I'm okay with that. As long as I'm on a
zombies.
tall object.
Oh my god, you're not.
If
going
I had to
be,
pick
Steven.
zombies, I'd pick the first Call
But-
of Duty Black Ops game zombies and on level 1.
Level
Where
1.
they're
On
all
level 1.
So if you think about this, you grew up around here too. This community would be really good in a zombie apocalypse.
honestly, this would probably end up being like some sort of bastion in a zombie apocalypse because they would just you can't get in or out except for through like what 3 or 4 roads.
Yeah.
So I mean, like all you'd have to do is just set up stations, and you know, people try and come through the woods. You're gonna start playing banjo music. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Let me get over here before
like,
y'all set up the walls. though.
Everyone out here has so many guns.
We've moved
so
like
many.
30 minutes away.
And then almost everyone here hunts, so they practice shooting all the time.
Right. Pretty good shots too.
Yeah.
Zombies, this is great. Hunting season all year round.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of
Not
people out here
technology.
too, like the workforce that they're in is either police, military, EMS, hospital, or they're in the oil field.
Like blue collar workers.
Like blue collar workers. So
Yeah.
they can function in some sort of society built in within itself.
Right.
Yeah.
And
There's an
contribute
awful lot of
something.
crackheads out here, though. Like, we have to admit that.
They will give them to the zombies.
Nah, you want to give them to the engineers. You know who will solve a problem? You give a problem to a crackhead and a stick of bubble gum,
They'll
a
figure it
wrapper, a
out.
popsicle
Well,
stick.
they'll find
they're
a
gonna
way
figure
to
it out.
shoot up. No,
Right. No, and it's not even about that. It's just solving
Hey,
problems.
you solve this issue, we'll give you a little bit of meth.
No, right. Done.
Okay.
I ain't never did no drugs.
I don't do drugs,
saying.
but your problem's solved.
Right.
It'll be like the
Gotta get them
Berserker
drugs.
Vikings. You just go distract the zombies.
So what would your end of world thing be?
I would want astronomical apocalypse, like black hole sun type stuff.
We're all dead then.
Well, no, like just mostly everybody. So it's just like, okay, so let's talk about like
Everybody except for this community.
Before you get deep into that one, were you in the class with me when I got in trouble in high school? When that guy, I think he was from NASA, came to talk to us, and they said they had sent a satellite into a black hole, and it sent back a bunch of pictures that were just black. They couldn't see anything. And I kind of mumbled, maybe you forgot to turn the flash on. And then we all started laughing.
right.
And it was like, if it's funny enough for you guys to laugh, go ahead and say it to everybody. And I was like, maybe you forgot to turn the flash on. It's not funny now because I have to say it in front of everybody.
I don't remember that.
But then he had this look on his face like, that was my job.
I had one job and I didn't do it.
Oh, that lens cover.
But no, so like, and this is just me being a weirdo again, right? I have studied myself into not knowing the shape of the world, right?
It's a sphere.
I've done that.
It's not flat.
Prove it, Steven.
Yeah.
Nope.
Prove it.
Watch your language, sir.
I'm sorry.
Captain America here. Language.
But no, like it's impossible for us to live on an oblate spheroid. Like it's literally impossible. The way that the seasons function, the magnetic poles, like absolutely none of it
The way
works.
that
I've seen-
pilots fly planes.
I've seen
Right.
enough proof to believe that it's still like an oval shape, but it's flat.
No, right.
Yeah.
Or not completely flat. Like we're not talking about
I
like,
hate
oh,
you
it's this
guys.
table.
I hate
right?
you.
So
people.
thinking of it like
I'm
a,
not saying it is.
No, so I think I know what you're saying. So basically,
The
it's
world
like a
is
sphere
not
that it
flat.
is.
Turtles
But
all
it's
the
not
way
a
down,
sphere,
bro.
it's
We're a
actually
turtle
just-
on the back of a turtle 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 on the back of a turtle.
I'm just saying that
What Edward said.
I've seen enough evidence to prove it.
Well, I guess
I'm not
Australia would
saying
be
if-
the butthole.
I'm not saying I'm one way or the other. I'm
It's
just
more,
saying
it's more like a circle flat rather than a square flat, like people are saying. And it has like the magnetism of like a sphere, I guess you could say.
magnetism.
No.
It's a toroidal field. So basically, there's a donut-shaped magnetic field around the whole of the world, and east is up, west is down, north is towards the center, and south is always pointing towards the edge.
Outside. That's pretty cool.
So like east is up.
How do I get to the other turtle?
Well, okay. So again, we're getting into mythology, right? So like
Well,
we don't want to get too deep into it, but like basically there
are
are ways
aliens
of
on that other turtle?
like you can die, and like your soul goes other places, and you can come back
To the
right?
next turtle.
Right. Or like they call it like the seventh heaven or the like the eighth realm, like the eighth layer. Like there are layers to it, like a giant parfait, right? And it's possible, and you know supposedly the conspiracy is that that's what the Stargates did. Is like you can't go to Mars, right? Because Mars is a luminary. It's in the sky. It's a light, right? But like there is a place on the plane of existence that is completely detached from where we are, but perpendicular. That is the realm of deietic Mars.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like it's not a Martian landscape. It's not the red we've been seeing. Like it's an actual place,
Yeah.
but it is the realm of Mars, the god.
Yeah.
Like conceptually, metaphorically, literally, physically, like That who knows?
I got you.
You know what I
Well, we're going to wrap it up for this part 1. We got a part 2 coming immediately. For us, at least. For y'all, it might be a day or 2. I have to
Edit all of this.
I have to edit all of
We
this.
have like another
He's gotta
camera and 2
edit
extra mics now that you have to add into this.
Yeah, I have
editing.
to add in a lot, and not to mention
Cut out my
he-
swearing.
Can change the angles.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool whenever I
Right.
do that.
Right.
Somebody's gonna be an epileptic. But anyway, hope y'all guys like and subscribe. I'm cutting this off pretty short. But yeah, send us videos. Love you. Goodbye.